I gave it all away. Then I wanted it back. Every joker wants a laugh. Every go-getter takes a stab. I feel my tension shift. See the pendulum lift in a room where I sit to sort me out. You can't win when you don't know what you're fighting for. Journey of the bullet, reason for a scar, and the way we are portrayed. What's real, who's to say? These thoughts are swirling round, both feet on bleeding ground. But help is what I found to sort me out. Out on the home stretch, in on the ski, I knew it was you standing there by the records and magazines. If dreams are made for two, but tell me, how did we do? Dancing eyes in cobalt blue, starlit sky above the spruce, and here you are right on cue to sort me out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Whiskey Wednesday show. Today we are very excited to be sitting down. It's actually, I think it's Tuesday. It's not Wednesday night, but we're doing a pre-record with Jerry Leger.
Oh,
I'm-
sorry, you know what? Sorry, I should have said that it's Leger.
I was just going to say, and I
Sorry,
always do, I
yeah.
always mess it up. Is it Leger or Leger? It's
Leger, yeah.
Okay. I'm very good at mistaking people's names at the top of shows. So you're not
Well,
alone.
it's not an easy one because there's Leger, there's Ledger. Yeah, there's
So
different ways
Leger,
to
where
do
where
it.
does
So
that? What's the sort of the background of your name? Is it a French?
well, yeah, it's not. It's more of a name that it comes from my mom's side. My dad's actually from Newfoundland. His last name's O'Brien, and
Oh,
it's just it's a name that my mom kept, and my brothers and I all have it. And I just thought when I started playing music, it had a nicer ring to it than O'Brien, which I love. I'm proud to have the O'Brien Association, but there's a lot of O'Briens, so
there
I
is a lot.
thought I thought
There is
maybe
a lot of
Jerry
O'Briens.
Leger was a bit more unique than I mean there's a lot of Legers as well, but Jerry Leger as opposed to Jerry O'Brien, I thought had a nicer
Yeah,
ring to it
the two
as
very different names actually. They immediately bring
yeah,
different things. You know, Leger has like a mystical European flavor to it. O'Brien,
yeah,
like the corner store. Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Your dad didn't own O'Brien's music back home, did he?
No, but I was just in St. John's last month and popped in O'Brien's and yeah, it's a nice little store. I love their merch. They have great t-shirts
They have
and
like the cheesiest like green baseball hat, you know, with like fun
yeah.
insert and stuff. Yeah, no, it's
And
fantastic.
they
It's
have like they
fun.
did the London Calling.
Yeah.
Well, I mean from the Elvis record, of course. But the yeah, I guess the Elvis thing, but
Yeah.
it's O'Brien's music and it has the accordion player. I forget who that is. I
Might have been
feel bad
Eminem.
that I can't remember which musician it is on
accordion player. It's probably
Yeah.
it wasn't Harry Hibbs.
Yeah, it might have been Harry Hibbs on
Could have
there.
been
And my
Harry.
dad actually told me, I never knew this until recently, but yeah, he used to hear Harry Hibbs playing the corner of his street because they just have some porch parties and he'd be there playing, they'd be drinking, and my dad was just, like 12, 13, 14 years old hearing that. So that was a cool bit of history that I only found out about now. So
That's very cool. Newfoundland is famous for the most underrated successful musicians just being out playing everywhere all the time. I mean,
yeah,
going back before he died, you could go see Ron Hines at a Tuesday night at the Ship,
it's
and pay
amazing.
$2 to get in and watch this master songwriter for 3 hours. It's just it's incredible. But that's the Newfoundland culture. I'm from St. John, so
Oh, you are? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so I'm a little biased, but I think it's one of the most vibrant arts cultures in Canada. It's really, I mean, like I say, I am biased, but just the
Well, I mean, yeah, Ron Hines is just what a beautiful
oh
singer-songwriter. And I love on those later records how he would harmonize with himself. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
he always had great harmony singers on those recordings too, but when he do his own harmonies, there's something really special about that because he has interesting lifts in his vocals, the way that he would match that in a harmonic way is pretty cool. And of course, I mean, his lyrics are just, I mean, some of those lines is blow me away. It's such a way with words, you know.
he I always say that, aside from being a fantastic poet and musician, he had the unique ability to be able to walk around Newfoundland and observe the culture and the people, and then reflect their life back to them in song. Uh,
Yeah.
and that was an amazing thing. I mean, sometimes it would be directly topical, like the the Dana Warren stories, or the Ocean Ranger disaster. He would write direct songs, but other times it would just be simple things about our life and culture that we take for granted, and you hear it's being sung about in a song, and it's a really nice reflection of the place around you. Ron did that amazingly. It was I had the pleasure to work with him. He's been in my life my whole life, but the last few years
Yeah.
before he died, I played bass with him. So me and him spent a lot of time together, just me and him on the road.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember learning his catalog. You listen to those songs and they all sound fairly simple and straightforward, but then when you start to try and learn them, he was a master songwriter. I mean, the craft involved was very, very rare to get that level of songwriting.
But it's yeah, there's some songwriters like that, some artists like that that it's kind of deceiving. You mentioned the maybe a melody seems simplistic or something or easy to follow, but I found when I started playing with other people and if I'd throw in a cover by, even Neil Young or Gene
Mm.
Clark, there's these little curveballs in the melody that are unexpected. So if somebody doesn't know the song, they get caught in it. And I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, making something, sound simple because it's a lot of it is just feeling too.
Yeah,
They're just that's where the song's taking them.
yeah.
And yeah, yeah. I wish I could have seen Ron Hines. I got into his music a little too late. I'd hear his name around and some people would tell me you gotta listen to him. But he wasn't an artist that was in my household. Like my dad didn't really uh my dad was more of like 60s radio child, born in 49,
Right.
came to Toronto in 65 and I mean he's only in the last few years my parents got the internet. They know we never had the internet growing up, and
Right.
my parents got it recently. And my dad's on YouTube a lot and Spotify, and now it's amazing because it'll be like, hey, do you know this artist, Towns Van Zandt or Lucinda Williams or John Prine? Because I mean,
Yeah.
that stuff was just too, even John Prine was just too under the radar unless you were going to college or university in Canada. You probably weren't really hearing him that much back in the
Yeah.
70s and 80s. He just was always a cult artist. Like I don't think he was more famous than before he died, with that last record. It seemed to have this really big discovery with especially a lot of younger people.
Yeah.
Um,
The was it called Tree of Forgiveness? Is that what it was called?
yeah, that's right. Which
Um,
is a beautiful record.
Beautiful record. And I remember
Yeah.
when that came out, because he'd had his stroke. He had sort of aged a little bit visibly. And when that record came out, I remember him doing like the Strombo house party and stuff. And there was just so much positivity around him.
Yeah.
Like, and John Prine he's been around for years. And I mean, the people that knew him, but he kind of went mainstream for a moment at the end. It was really amazing to see, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I got into him like I guess around 2008 or 9. That's when because again, I didn't know his records
Yeah.
growing up. Um so yeah, I started off with the Missing Years. I got that
Mhm.
album and then I bought the first album and then just started getting them all,
Yeah.
through the years. But yeah, he was always this more under the radar artist and yeah, and then he just almost became like a star in a way,
He
which is
really
really
did.
beautiful that he got to see that.
Yeah.
I think it is kind of sad. Obviously Towns had his problems and stuff, but I mean he wasn't, rediscovered in a big way until
Mhm.
after he died,
A
and
lot of these,
it's a shame. It's a shame when that happens.
but I wonder sometimes with those artists, like had they seen their success, would they have made the same music they made? I don't know that.
Right.
I'm not sure how
Yeah.
it is for you, but I know that success sometimes it's a very attractive figure, when you start getting success and you kind of it becomes an ego thing where you want to nurture the success. And I think that sometimes you start to nurture the success more than the art. And
Right. Right.
that I've seen. I haven't seen it. I feel like I've seen some artists do that. It's like they get caught in trying to do what they did last time or do something that people are going to want.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's the expectations become bigger too, I imagine.
exactly.
I think about the 80s being this difficult decade for a lot of amazing songwriters, like Bob Dylan, who I still think was writing great songs in that decade, but he didn't really know what to do in the studio.
Yeah.
He was kind of like lost of how, because I mean there's an expectation even when you're Bob Dylan, you're signed to a major label. There's an expectation at shows and how many record sales you're gonna get. Where somebody like Tom Waits, he was always just putting out records for this following that he's had, for so long. So through the 80s, he just did what he wanted to do,
Everyone.
and I mean those albums. You listen to those records, and they could have been made anytime. They're not affected by the technology of that decade or the expectations of
Yeah.
him because he was really just making them for himself and for his audience.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of, yeah, it's that the pros and cons of what level of success you get to,
Yeah.
and I mean for me personally, I always looked at artists like that, even though I mean Bob Dylan is, he's kind of at the top of the mountain, like him, Hank Williams and John Lennon for me are kind of probably the three most influential. But and Tom Waits is up there too. And he was an artist that it's like, well, I want that kind of career because I want to be able to just do what I want to do. I have my like devoted fans, and I can kind of play anywhere. It's a certain amount of people, and you don't have to deal with the all those negatives that like fame brings you.
I wanted to ask you a question. You've been talking a lot about sort of the development and being able to do what you want and feeling supported and having a niche and feeling really comfortable doing what you want. You've been associated with Leighton for a long time, Leighton Records, and that's kind of the Cowboy Junkies family. And you've worked with Michael Timmons. How do you find working with them? Like in the age where the record company is dead, for most artists, is it more of a family with working with them? And has that sort of been a big part of your support, or are they, or is it very business-like as well?
I think it's been the best case scenario for me, really, especially with how things have gone. Because I mean it's a label that can offer support and get these records out, and it's artist driven. I mean it's Mike Timmons, and I have complete artistic freedom, and and he's been so supportive the whole time, and even like my latest record, Dawnlands, that one was actually produced by somebody else, Mark Howard, but Mike was very excited that we were going to be working with him, and the door was still open to have a place, a home for that record to come out on, and I was right to doubt her. She was giving me the slip when her alarm went off this morning. She had already split. I thought things were going much better than they were, but I know that troubling feeling should take a different turn. Back into his arms and out of this world. I was wrong to convince her that this was the place for us. In my hometown, far from her friends, I began to lose her trust. A sleepy kind of city and a stubborn set of rules. The local closes at 11, and further she withdrew. Back into his arms and out of my view. Snow on the ceiling, snow on the floor. I can't stand the feeling of snow anymore. Snow in the dealing, snow at my door. I can't stand seeing the snow anymore. I was right to doubt her. She was giving me a line. When I told her that I loved her, she took her time to reply. But I was not her first man, and I would not be her last. I was caught up in what I wanted, and what she wanted was in the past. Back into his arms and out just as fast. and
How was the switch to Mark? I know Mark is I met Mark once back in the 90s when we were chatting with producers for a record. And
yeah.
worked with, Lucinda Williams, Bob Dylan, Tom Waits. An obvious good choice for be able to, to make a fantastic record for you. How was how different was the process working with Mark as opposed to the other records you've done?
Well, he was the first hands-on producer that I've worked with.
Okay.
I was just at that point, I think, like when that opportunity came up, I was into it because I was at a point, I've made a lot of records and I'm just feeling like I hit a wall in a way, like I was just continuing on, writing, doing my thing, but I don't know. I think I was just at a point where it was nice to have somebody else kind of come up with like some arrangement ideas and suggestions. And it's not like I took them all, if I didn't really like the direction or didn't think it suited the song, then we try something else. But for the first time, I was very open to, coming into the studio, playing the song the way that, I wrote it with that arrangement with the band. And for him to say like, okay, on the fly, let's like start from scratch and let's slow it down. Like a lot of songs, he slowed down quite a bit because he wanted to have more breathing room for the lyrics to come out, which I thought was really nice. And he never changed like musically the songs. It was strictly just the arrangements of it, which really challenged the band a lot in a good way, where they had to think on the fly. And yeah, and I think I also really trusted it because I love the records that he's worked on. I wanted to make a record that lived in the same universe as Lucinda's World Without Tears. I mean, right from that when the needle drops on Fruits of My Labor, it's just this, beautiful atmosphere in that song. And Real Gone by Tom Waits. I mean, that was a really important record for me when it came out. I was just got the band together, and I remember that year listening to that record and Elvis Costello's Delivery Man. Those two albums I listened to so much. And so yeah, it was just a real pleasure to work with him, and we just went into the studio for 5 days and knocked it out. Again, like the other records I made with Mike and before Mike, basically every album I've made was just very live. All the vocals are live and the band's live. We just add like a few overdubs here and there. And I remember talking to him for the first time. He called me and we wanted to make sure that we could make a record together. And yeah, he asked me, well, how do you feel about just doing it live in the studio? The band, you singing. It's like, well, I've been doing that the whole time, so that's perfect. Like I wouldn't want to do it any other way. Like
I am more a fan of those albums, a lot of even some of my favorite albums. I mean, there's mistakes all throughout them. You can hear the mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, that's cool. you get to anticipate them after a while. Check out, this is coming up here,
Yeah, well, you know what? There's a couple that come to mind right away. Well, one's not technically a mistake, but it's like a very out of tune guitar, and it's the solo. It's on the first Buffalo Springfield record, and it's on Burned.
Okay.
It's the song that it's like Neil's first vocal on a record. Like they let him sing, I think, 2 songs on the first album. And yeah, Burned, it comes to the solo and like the guitar is just so out. But I love it. I love it.
Amazing.
Like I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And then there's such a like terrible bass mistake on a Birds record, their version of Dylan's Spanish Harlem Incident.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess it's yeah, Chris Hillman on bass, and he hits the wrong note, and then he kind of searches for where he's supposed to be. And I guess that was just the best,
That was the
that
best they
was
could get.
the best take that they got. So, and I just look forward to it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no getting around it. There's no getting around it. It's such a flub, but
Yeah.
I love it.
I think the mistakes are a huge part of it. A huge part of it.
Yeah.
So you've got am I correct? 9 solo records, 3 band records, and 1 record with the Situations, plural. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's up there somewhere. I think yeah, it's something like yeah, that's probably right. I'd have to look, but yeah.
And these days, are you doing more solo stuff? Is the Situation still like, do you still play with the Situation, or when you play solo, is it the Situation band, or is it a different band?
It's still the same band. I mean some of those records were definitely more acoustic or had less of the band on them. But I also just started doing it for like catalog reasons.
Yeah.
Like Dawn Lands is a full band record all the way through. So is Time Out for Tomorrow. But I just put my name on there. It's just easier. I'll still in the credits on the records, like there's still, credited, but just not in like for catalog reasons. But
Right.
but we're still playing. Like Kyle the drummer, Kyle Sullivan. We've been playing for over 20 years now. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, we were getting out of high school, and we went to high school together, and Dan Mock on bass. He's been in the band since 2007. So yeah, the rhythm section's been there
Been there for a while.
for a very long time, and we just did we did 6 weeks in May and June in Europe and the UK, and
That's
and
right.
that was a lot of fun. And yeah, and we have a few shows coming up here in Toronto. We're doing November 7th at the new Hughes Room, which is
Oh,
very
nice.
yeah, it's a beautiful space. I haven't played a show there yet, so we're looking forward to that. But a lot of the touring coming up will be more solo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You had the honor of opening up for Steve Earle recently too, right? That was one of the shows you did this summer.
yeah, I opened for him in Ottawa and Kingston, which was he was playing solo. So it worked out great,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's when you open for somebody, of that level, especially,
Yeah.
you don't know how their audience is going to react to you, if they're
Hmm.
just going to be talking the whole time waiting for who they came to see,
That's
right?
right.
Um, but I was feeling pretty good that because he was playing solo, that the audiences they knew what to expect from the night, that they're going
Yeah.
to be, hearing one person up there, playing these songs with a lot of words. And
Yep.
so that made me feel a little more at ease as far as how it come across. And yeah, both shows, very attentive, respectful crowds. Um, and yeah, it was a real honor. It was great to chat with him a few times, and he was such a nice, sweet guy, and yeah, it was. I hope I get to do more, down the line, because I think it worked really well, and it was a lovely time.
Yeah.
And I loved watching the show, watching his performance on side stage.
Hmm.
And I mean, I love his record, Train a Comin' from the mid-90s, which is a very acoustic record.
Hmm.
And he played a few songs from that. And yeah, it was just a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with some of those songwriters, they attract an audience that they have a respect for the narrative singer-songwriter type of stuff, you know, those
Yeah.
big sort of 11 verse story songs. You know, it's not really sort of all about the catchy chorus. It's about something different than that. You know,
Yeah.
there's specific, there are certain rooms around where you can get that, but you know, most of the venues that you go to, it's really hard to get that sort of command over an audience. But in America, they seem to have really curated that. You know, like when I went down to do some of the folk fests and like fest and stuff, I remember doing Merle Fest and I was terrified. I was like, there's 18,000 people out there and they want me to go on stage with an acoustic guitar, like, and tell
Wow. Yeah.
stories. And I was like, fuck, this is hard. But I walked out and I started talking and they all listened. Like, it was just like, this audience is here for that, you know? And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
with Steve Earle, you'd get that too. Um, you know, as opposed to like going out and opening up for like a Gord Downie or say somebody like that, who's very sort of iconic. And, you know, you kind of get hipped off the stage when you're trying to open up for them. I think that a Steve Earle audience would be very respectful of who he's going to choose to bring out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And yeah, I mean that's really cool that you did that. And it is quite a difference, like coming from Canada where it you know, you encounter a lot of like noisier
Yeah,
audiences.
yeah.
Even if it's a show at Massey Hall, which I find very confusing.
I know.
But yeah, you go into a different setting where that's expected of you, that you're
Mhm.
gonna come out and you know, we're gonna listen to you and we want to catch what you're saying, you know, maybe it will hit us,
Yeah.
you know.
And we're
Um,
catching on in Canada. I mean, the house concert thing has really built up over the last 15 years, which is great. And
yeah, yeah.
concerts are a lovely way for artists to be able to go and, you know, you get 40, 80, 100 people, maybe in a yard or something. That connection that you make with those people in a house concert environment, I find to be way stronger than any sort of concert environment. You know,
Yeah, I love playing the house concerts for
yeah,
sure.
you have a little bit of dinner with folks, you hang out, you play some songs, they're all close to you, it feels great. It's a really nice way to build an audience. That's been going on in America for a lot longer. But some of these things too, they're different. Like again, Merlefest, there's no booze. You know, it's just like it's
Oh,
a
I didn't know that.
yeah. So like that's the other thing. It's like they're not focused. You're not plastering beer logos all over the place and trying to push beer down people's throat. Like this is a come out and enjoy music only. Like that's
Yeah.
what it's about. And I think that sort of light put on an artist is fantastic. And we are catching up in Canada, but I did find that that exists more in the States. You know, 10 years ago when I was doing it more.
Well, you know, I've heard a few people, a few friends say to me, you know, recently, like in the last few weeks, that they feel a change coming on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like you know things go in cycles and you know, and I hope they're right that you know they're feeling that you know people are getting a bit you know tired of the kind of music that doesn't dig that deep. You know, they're kind of getting exhausted from it, you know.
A little bit tired
Um
of McDonald's, so to speak.
we just continue to make music. We just
Yeah,
continue to I mean, I can't stop anyways,
I know. On the
but
same.
nor I mean but I don't want to either. I mean, yeah, there are like some sides of it. It's always the business side that kind of like drags you down in a way, but you know, creatively, it's like I love writing songs and I love performing and I love making records. Like that's it's such second nature to me that I don't even think of it as being, you know, when other people are like, you know, they're kind of, you know, how do you do that? Or, you know, that kind of lifestyle and
Yeah,
this and that. It's like, well, it just that's
it's
just life to me. I don't really think about it,
thank you for being on the show, man. So cool to get
Yeah.
to know you. I've been enjoying your music from a distance for a long time. I'm looking forward to digging into it with a little more vim and vigor now. The last week I've been kind of listening to stuff in the background. It's got the singer-songwriter vibe that I like, the narrative vibe that I like. I find your voice incredibly interesting. Your range at times, I'm thinking, who's this woman singing? This is beautiful. And then I go, oh
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah. That's why I can do all the Hank Williams songs.
yeah, you did that Hank Williams record there
I
last
did,
year, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's it's his birthday today. That's where we're doing
Oh,
this.
is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's keep you on the docket for keeping an eye on when you are in the area. I'd love to see you.
Yeah, sounds good. All
Yeah, it'd be
right.
cool to hang out sometime.
Yeah, I would love that.